Morning, class. I hope all is well. Today we're going to be getting into Chapter 2, The Ethics of Public Speaking. One thing that I highly recommend for all of you when you go off to college is one, if you can, take an ethics class. And two, I highly recommend philosophy. It is wonderful. You can sure tell it's Monday, the guy's pointing in the wrong direction. But let's define exactly what ethics is. It is the standards used to discriminate between right and wrong, good and bad in thought and action. We live with ethics all the time. When you are walking down the hallway, you see someone drop something, maybe a $5 bill, you know it's their lunch money, you pick it up and you run to give it back to them. That's very ethical. Sometimes the devil will tell you, hey, that's $5 I didn't have, now I do. So what is the right thing to do? Always remember, do the right thing. Okay, we're going to get into the ethics of speaking. This is basically for the speaker and the listeners. Remember, all parties have an ethical responsibility, whether you're a speaker and presenting credible information, or as a listener, whether you accept that information as true. Ethics will pervade character and action. As you grow older, people will know your ethical standards. They will know, can they trust you? Speakers and listeners will have those ethical attitudes and standards as they're presenting, even preparing their materials for the group. And it will guide their actions before, during prep, and afterwards. Will we believe what you have just told us? Or do we accept it as misinformation? And that goes for listening. Okay, ethics and speaking. There are 6 guidelines that you need to remember. Speak up about important issues. Trying to do something funny, like talking about what to do during a zombie attack in Bradley, it's not going to fly. It's just going to make you look silly. Promote positive ethical values, and that will come from excellent research. Speak to benefit your listeners. It may benefit you, but will it benefit them as well? Use truthful support and valid reasoning. Now remember, when you're giving an informative speech, and especially persuasive speech, you're going to have to back that up with truth, credible evidence. And consider the consequences. Let's say that you have a wonderful way to tell your audience, especially in high school or college, what is the best way I can cheat on an exam? I'm taking it on Canvas, but I know a way that we can get the answers, or a way that we can pass the answers between each other in class. What are the consequences? I will tell you this right now. They're very severe. One kid in graduate school that I had in my class was caught doing some very unethical things. I caught him at it. I had to report him to the dean, and he was expelled from the college. And then strive to improve your speaking. Every time that you come in front of an audience, you're going to try just a little bit harder to A, show that you're well prepared, and B, that you're very confident. Okay, here he is. Here's the villain. So he has some mean things that may happen, and that you're going to have to decide if you're going to be ethical or unethical. The first, how to use AI to write an essay. AI is out there. Hey, it is wonderful. It's great to look up a recipe or to find a quick fact. But what you do not want to do is to tell your AI, I want a 3-page paper. Here are the key ideas, and I want 5 sources. Now, that's all wonderful. You're done with your paper, you turn it in. Guess what? It's going to show up on our AI software when you turn it in to us. Next, how to buy an essay online. They're out there, guys. You can buy an essay on sale for $15. You can ask exactly that person to write whatever that you want them to in whatever level, but don't do it. It's unethical and you're going to get caught because guess what? We have software that's going to detect it. And how students can get free snacks from a campus snack machine. Oh, that's great. So you put the money in, 2 packages fall out. It's a mistake, Is it credible to take both of them? I'm sure, unless there's someone in the cafeteria you can return it to. But if you're shaking that machine or you're putting your hand up there trying to grab an extra snack or you know exactly what to do to get that snack out of there free, don't do it. You have to live with yourself after it. And then we have how to receive credit for the same paper in 2 different classes. Can I do that? Well, we strive for creativity. We strive for originality. Taking a paper from one class and rewriting it to use in another class is not really completing the assignment that was given to you. Try not to do that because it will probably show up on, guess what? Our software. Okay, I'm quickly going to go over the principles of ethical listening, which is just as important as speaking. First of all, seek exposure to well-informed speakers. You don't want to waste your time listening to someone speak about something they know very little about. You're going to find out the information is incorrect and that it may get you into some either financial trouble or other kind of trouble. Okay, avoid prejudging speakers and ideas. So when you go off to college, you're going to meet so many different people from so many different cultures. That's the beauty of college because you get to learn about different people and their backgrounds. One thing that we try never to do is prejudge the speaker and their ideas. They close their mind to whatever that person may say. The beauty of listening is you may learn something. Do you have to believe it? Do you have to act on it? Do you have to accept it as true? No, but that's up to you to decide. And evaluate the logic and the credibility. If that person is up there just throwing a word salad at you, then probably not. You're not going to find the logic or the credibility because they've offered you no background research or any kind of evidence to back up their thesis. And then beware of the consequences of not listening carefully. Oh, I can just go into this for a little bit. A lot of times when I am lecturing and it happens, I know that kids aren't listening to me, but when I'm giving directions of how to properly do an assignment and you aren't listening to it and you turn in the assignment anyway and it's not done correctly, the consequences are going to be a lower grade for you. Remember, the criteria of this class must be completed correctly. Okay, a little bit about the fair use provision. This is the great thing about being a student in school. We get to use copyright material because it's allowing limited non-commercial use of that material for teaching, criticism, scholarship, research, or commentary. Now, when I was writing for the Daily Journal, of course, I had to cite my sources. Where did I get that material? Of course, when I was doing videos for Acre Square, I had to pay a license or what they call a drop fee for the music that I used in my video because I was being paid for it, so that artist who wrote that music should be paid for it. In the fair use, what you need to remember is that you're using material for education, but you still have to cite your sources. Plagiarism. I'm sure that you are probably overwhelmed right now hearing about plagiarism in your dual credit classes. That's one of the first things that is gone over in the syllabus, that plagiarism, the unattributed use of another's ideas, words, patterns of organization. That is basically kidnapping. And that is where plagiarism comes from. The Latin word plagiarism means to kidnap. The first is the worst one, and that's intentional plagiarism. That is basically stealing material from another person to use as your own. Words, ideas, and patterns of organizations. It doesn't matter how small or large, plagiarism is wrong. This is unintentional plagiarism. This happens quite often when we're writing, that we're a little bit careless in paraphrasing. Sometimes it's just easier to quote it directly and to cite it than it is to paraphrase. I find paraphrasing a long piece very difficult, so I just choose, let's just cite it and get it over with. Civility. This is respecting each other in the classroom. And we want to make sure that when other students are giving their speeches and we decide to refute their thesis or their statements, but we do it with respect. There's no finger pointing, there's no yelling. That we see too much of that right now in our world, that we need to be civil enough to be able to listen completely until that person has finished and then say, are there any questions? Or even if we start debating towards the end of the term, which means that you have a time to refute the other team's statement. But if it's interrupted by another person or they start getting mad or calling each other names, I will stop that debate right then and there, and that team automatically loses that debate. Respect. As you can see, I love civility in the classroom. I like to harbor a safe environment for my students to be able to give their opinions, to speak freely without having someone give them a look or roll their eyes. Each person has their own ideas, and I want them to be able to express that in the classroom. So we need to speak with civility. We need to have good motives. We need to prepare and assess what you will say in class, and that comes through thorough preparation and rehearsal. Respect your listeners by all means. Give them your full attention. That's why there will not be any phones or any computers open while another person is speaking. Respect. You might learn something. Speak with conviction. If you're mumbling and looking down at your notes, you're not going to look confident to your audience. Your audience is going to stop listening because they feel that you are not sure of what your topic is about. Encourage the other side to be heard. This is what we need, people. If you are not watching TV right now, and you should turn on the news one night and let me tell you, I get really angry sometimes and I'll start yelling at the TV because they do not listen to one another. Listen, we might learn something from the other person. And welcome feedback. How was my speech? Did you enjoy my speech? What did you find enjoyable about it? What did you learn? Give that speaker feedback. I'm going to be doing that as I'm evaluating this each and every speaker. I'll be giving you feedback. Most of the time it's going to be love notes, how wonderful that you are. Sometimes I might point out that we need to work on our vocals a little bit. We need to maybe have a little bit stronger research. But most of that comes prior to you delivering that speech. And I don't know if you know who this guy is, but if you didn't pay attention to anything in this PowerPoint, every photo that was up on each slide, they all had a mustache. For what reason? I don't know. I just felt a little bit frivolous this time. So what is it that we're going to take away after listening with civility? You're going to give the speakers your full attention. Expect to learn something. Evaluate the merits of the speaker's ideas and supporting materials. It's okay to question. You may ask questions. You may refute that, but we do it in a civil way. And then provide the speaker with constructive feedback. We don't write on their evaluation, you really stink. We don't do that. We let them know what they did right and what they can improve upon. Okay, here's my last little mustache guy. You may recognize him from a video game called something Mario, something or other. But he's going to say goodbye to you. And I want you to know what the definition of ethics is. It refers to right and wrong, good from bad, in your thoughts and in your actions. All parties have an ethical responsibility, whether you're the speaker or the listener. And you must be aware of the fair use provision. Remember, we can use it for education, but we still need to cite our sources. And we have to be aware of plagiarism. I think I spoke enough about plagiarism and how the school stands on that, so I'm not going to repeat myself. And then when you are listening to a speaker or you're on a debate team, take notes. You want to make sure that you ask a question and not forget about it, and that you have all the information needed to refute that statement. And then remember the civility in the classroom. You go off to college, remember the best conversations are healthy debates. I loved grad school so much because a lot of us did not agree, especially in law and when we took ethics, and then especially in philosophy. Our best discussions came from healthy debates. So that's what I have. And then I will see you on Wednesday. I am returning for Wednesday for a short class, and then I'll be back on Friday. So I'll see you then.